All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. And welcome to Spinal Workshop at Monarch Family Chiropractic. We are going to talk some spinal hygiene about backpack tips and ways in which to support our back in carrying things. Backpacks, it's a good time of year to talk about that because the kids are going back to school. And I really wanted you to think about there's ways that I was trying to apply some pictures of even people using backpacks, since we live in a state like Colorado where people do a lot of backpacking and hiking and use different types and sizes of packs to carry anything up to probably 40, 50 plus pounds. So there's ways in which we may want to come back and do some additions. If there's those of you that get interested in this call or get on this call that do those things, that'll address it slightly different. I couldn't pull pictures in to go over what that looks like when you carry those kind of packs, because it is different. But hopefully this will give you a premise for kiddos and regular size backpacks and how we want to distribute weight and stabilize and support our bodies over time doing these things and carrying these things. So we're going to jump right in. What we're going to cover, we really want to talk about, what's inappropriate use of a backpack or carrying pack, as well as proper size for a body type, some tips and just ergonomics, and how to support the frame in general and overall in carrying loads, as well as our body weight load. We want to talk about when you have to carry extra loads like this. So there's a few pictures that didn't make it into the slideshow. We could not get our technology to cooperate today. But I can show you those or send you a flyer if you have interest in really looking at a kiddo when they're wearing their pack and assessing. If I can hold it up to the screen, I'll try to hold it up while we're talking and doing the workshop here. But we really want to talk about the incorrect use of a pack because it can cause just, it can be damaging, and using something improper is just as bad. So incorrect use of one versus just improperly using one can have the same ill effects to the function and to the spine. And then also, just leading to dysfunction in the body. It really can create just the shoulder pain, neck pain, and chronic back pain. The choices we make now when our kids are younger, we think about, we want that longevity post school year age. And many of us, when we were talking about in the other workshop the other night about how, this is a longevity thing. When we think about some of the things we've been doing them for decades. And so it isn't just like, oh, all of a sudden we have this condition. So a lot of things we see when we see neck posture and forward head posture and things with the upper neck and upper shoulders, and even low back, is because we've been doing some of these forward pulling postures with countering a heavy backpack since we were, in elementary school. So we want to just watch those trends, because then we don't want to see those things have ill effects when we're in our 20s and 30s. Because many of us, even those going to school later or doing multiple degrees, some people are in school till they're 30. So that's a lot of years possibly carrying something in an improper way. So we're going to go incorrectly. The things, or the inappropriate way, is these are the kind of signs you may see if things are being worn correctly. And I'm going to try my best to put this picture in my window. You might be able to see how that kiddo is standing with that size pack, and that the head is forward, the shoulders are forward, the pelvis ends up tipping forward, and it creates improper, support of not only head and neck, but for sure the low back and hips as well. So signs that show up when we see kiddos in that forward posture is if they're complaining of any type of headache, especially ones right at the back of the skull, neck pain and really stuff between the shoulder blades. If there is anything that's not the right size or fitting, then for sure, even with the weight that kids are carrying in their packs these days, you may have marks on the shoulders that could show up if it's not fitting you proper. And then if you're in that kind of shoulder roll or that leaning forward, that hunched motion, almost like you're trying to keep the backpack from tipping you over. So we do that forward lean to counteract it. same thing. Stomach stuck out while carrying is just, again, because you're, again, trying to balance a weight too heavy. So sometimes the posture is leaning forward. Sometimes they're trying to balance themselves from tipping backwards. So watching where their postures are on their shoulders and in their stomach. And then, again, like I just said, bending forward in order to distribute that weight. If there is ever any kind of symptom like a numbness, especially in arms and hands, that could be very related to the signal not getting out of the neck properly and down into the arms and hands. So that could be from the posture, and that can be from the compression of the straps, and most likely the weight compressing. There's an area that I was also trying to get a picture on this slide, and I didn't get it in there. So next time we'll have it. When we talk about the thoracic outlet, it is this area of the neck here along the side. It is the area that would get compressed right here at the top of the shoulders from the pack. And when we talk about what the weight should be in a pack, that hopefully will help realize what it needs to be, what it doesn't need to be, and how we need to wear it so that we can distribute the heavier weight equally and it's not sitting right on the shoulders. So what to look for when we are purchasing one is something that's more lightweight, but it's really that's the same length as your kiddo's torso or the person's torso. So I'll try to show you a picture that's that better posture, but that it sits no higher than the top of the shoulders. So you're not getting a pack that's way up here or too big for them, or really mostly what we see is that it's too big and it sits too low. So it's past the top of your hip bone. So wherever you put your hand on the top of your hips, we don't want it to be lower than that. The straps, we want at least 2 inches wide, minimum. And again, it's for distributing weight. And so we don't compress down into the top of the shoulder, into those nerves and arteries that leave the neck and come out into the arms and hands and chest. The straps on at the chest, which sometimes you see on backpacks, you'll see them more on like a backpacking, like hiking pack to distribute weight. I don't know that I've seen them on kids' backpacks all the time. But it would be a chest strap that kind of that snaps in right here at their sternum, and then a little waist strap across the front of the hips. And that just helps to balance the weight of the pack. Let me turn this so you can see me a little bit easier if I'm pointing at stuff. They do make many of the backpacks padded on the back side of the hips there. That's really comfortable. Some of them also have, if you're really going to carry weight, it may not look like a kid's backpack that you would take to school or might be designed with a lot of, kiddo pictures and things on it. But if they are going to carry a heavier weight, then there's frames that go within the backpack that fit in like the mesh part that's right against the back, against the person's back when they're wearing it. And it'll have like almost two little metal bars. And it's just, again, some framing that help keep it stable, and it doesn't bend as easy, and it helps keep that weight upright. And so that can be really helpful when using that with the hip strap to just, if you're going to carry a heavier amount of weight in it than really is for your body, you've got to distribute it over the top of your hips. So I'm going to try to now show you. That was the forward leaning picture. Hopefully this one looks a little bit different. And you can see the head over the shoulders over the hips, the pack sitting right, again, no lower than the waist, no higher than the shoulders. And they're using that waist strap. So that's more the posture we want to be in when we're carrying that weight. Now, distributing it is, I think, a big key. And I think the packs matter in that way. So when we look at the components of kind of ergonomic tips, we'll go over those, and then we can kind of talk about what's the weight per child as a starting point for how much weight they should have in their pack. In distributing things and really ergonomic tips so that they look like that second picture, it's that you're putting the heavier items closest to their back, so the furthest inward into the pack. The odd shaped things, it's really like referencing if they're carrying something awkward, that it's not poking them or poking through the bag or poking them in the body or in the back for that matter. So sometimes they have the side pouches. It might just be something that needs to be carried and not put in the pack. But I think it's just watching the shapes of things. And that putting the backpack on your table, loading it from the table, or even them loading it from their desk at school, and then turning around and putting it on their back. So, not slinging something from the floor and putting it on. That get it packed first and then properly lifted onto your back from there. And if it does have to come from the floor, that we're bending at the knees and grabbing it like we would, no different than picking something else up, and not using, our back to lift the weight. I asked the consensus when I was asking patients about this with their kids, since my kiddo's not at school age yet, for carrying a pack was, many of them that are in that 8, 9, 10-year-old range, it's not even like our high schoolers or even late junior high school kids. They're already carrying like 40 pounds, 50 pounds in school books. And the reasons I get is that they don't get enough time to get to their locker, or they don't have enough breaks in between where they feel like they can go to their locker between periods and then go back. So they're carrying everything with them for like 2/3 of their day. Or they don't have lockers or access to getting to them throughout the day. Or they do so many extra, curricular or different activities that beyond just having to take stuff home for homework, they don't have an opportunity to go, from practice back to a locker, or from practice back into the school or whatnot, in order to go get their stuff and then go home. So I think it's, when we're talking about the weight, if we can carry extra smaller things like lunches or a heavier extra book in our hand versus put it in the pack and distribute the weight in front of us, that's always going to be better. And having it assessed by your chiropractor, having it assessed by somebody who understands what a pack fits like. So if this is, an adult and they're not looking at like a smaller backpack for using it for hiking or a school type of activity or fun activity, but you are using a like true backpack style pack, like you might go into the mountains or hike with, then everyone that sells those, I think they're required to fit you if you go to any of the sports, or outdoor stores in town. We had awesome success learning how to wear ours when we went backpacking years ago for the first time. And I may at some point, if we do a spin-off of this, just bring mine in and show you what it looks like to wear it properly and what it looks like to not wear properly. You'd be amazed when you're training how much more weight you can actually carry safely when you are distributing it properly and not on your shoulders and just carrying more of the load at the hips with the straps. But having someone assess yours, and if you go to a place that's assessing, knows how to assess big packs, they're going to know how to assess a smaller pack too. So this is the last piece that really kind of talks about size per, weight, if you will. So I think the easiest way to start for parents out there is, get your kiddo's body weight, and then just do the math of 10% of that if they're in elementary school, and trying not to exceed 15 to 20% of their body weight if they're, that junior high school range. Now, that's a big range for a lot of kids when they, are either fast growers or kind of ahead of the pace. So again, taking their body weight helps make that math make more sense. It's not, there's just a set, nothing over 20 pounds, because a kiddo who weighs 100 and a kiddo that weighs 160, is a different body frame and can handle a different load, and obviously has different development. So I think I would just take use these simple numbers to take the average of, or take their body weight and take a percentage and just start there. And nothing else, that gives you a gauge of where they're at and how much they're carrying and what to do about what can we leave home, what can we, grab at lunch, or what can we get at the end of the day and not be carrying it around the entire day as well as home. The waist straps, if available, are really the key. So they really distribute up to 70% of the weight off of the upper body and into that low back pelvis area, which can handle the weight if it's worn above the hip bone there, and you use the buckle. So I would say the biggest challenge that I hear also parents say, and I see this with adults too, so this could go for us women carrying heavy purses, or men carrying, briefcases or different types of like satchels, or like a shoulder strap type bag, right? A messenger bag, is if we're not using the straps that it comes with, or wearing it the way we're supposed to, we are damaging our spines, our necks, our shoulders. And so if you're not, if the biggest thing I see with kids is they throw the bag over one shoulder and they don't wear both shoulder straps. So that's an absolute no. That wasn't on the previous slide of the do not do's, but it's the biggest one on there, I think, is do not just put one strap over the shoulder and not put the other one on too. If you're going to have the weight in there, it's got to be distributed over both sides of your full spine and body. Otherwise, we'll see a lot of postural distortion because you're going to walk lopsided carrying 20, 30 pounds on one shoulder. If it is a shoulder bag and you're doing it across this way, like you're slinging it over the head, then I would just practice doing that both ways. Wear it this way and go this direction across your body, and not just wear it on one shoulder and then the weight being on the opposite hip. The newer bags, when you're flipping it towards the back side of you, you may go across the shoulder, but the weight of the bag sits kind of more at the center of your back instead of off on one hip or the other. So if you are wearing something like a messenger, I would distribute it, against the center of you, and make sure your strap isn't too long. If it's too long and that bag is sitting way below your waistline, you're putting stress on your shoulder and your upper back and mostly your hips, because you're going to start having to lean different in order to carry that weight, that load. So shorten up your strap so that if you put it over the shoulder or crisscross, the body or weight of the bag is still sitting more right at the top of your hips and not below, say, your belt line or for sure not past your pockets, the tops of your pockets of your jeans. And we know that kids start doing these kinds of things early on. 5, 6 years old, if going to school, they may not be carrying big things home to and from. But shortly after that, they are. We have some of our second, third, fourth graders that are already complaining about back stuff when they have to start wearing their bags to and from school, and as the if you will, the semester or the school year goes on. So we want to check kids for spinal alignment and subluxations, because if those things are showing up, by the time they feel them and they're complaining about them, we already probably have a function issue and an issue that's causing some discomfort or disease down the road. So again, as they're going through such growth stages and phases, it's really important that we're not adding more stress to their growing bodies and their growing frame and their growing structure. And then it taxes the brain and makes their body work harder than it needs to when it's already doing so much at those ages. So in development, anything that we can do that supports the brain to body signal and that being less stress upon it than not, will really just support their overall development. When we were talking about, well, I don't know if Doc did this example in Healthy Curves workshop, but we've done it in the past when we've talked about healthy curves or when we've talked about posture and ergonomics and lung capacity. When the kids are in that forward posture, when we're slunched over in a chair, when we're leaned over trying to hold the weight of that backpack, any of that forward posture into, that 10, 20, 30 degrees forward creates about 30% less oxygen that gets through your body, that gets through your lungs, that gets through, not into your tissues in your brain, because we're in a slouched or a slumped posture. So doing that over days and years and months and decades of wearing backpacks or wearing, something that tugs and makes our posture challenged is really slowly decreasing, the amount of oxygen they need in their bodies every time they're carrying it. So taking it back to posture and our curves and what we're doing when we're thinking about sitting in a chair, well, let's think about the posture we want to be in when we're carrying our things and carrying the weight around for a couple decades, most kiddos. So those are the basic tips for backpack ergonomics and what to look for with your child or your student or those around you. If you happen to be in the education field or you're a teacher or you're watching this, we appreciate the feedback and how we can support you in supporting maybe a bigger group of kiddos that you have, that you may see be doing more of this. So I guess one thing I would throw out there is, whether it's a single kiddo or multiples, if you're in a setting where this could be helpful to show a school, a classroom, a teacher, Doc and I do community hours all year long. So we would be happy to come in and do a short little presentation or workshop on what your backpack should look like and how to fill one and maybe how to not fill one, and bring some fun things along and bring some backpacks that we can test and we can show how they are properly to be done. So if there's anybody that, you know, says, oh, this would be great to be shown more people, or to show a group of kids, or to show a group of parents, please reach out to us. We would be happy to come do that at a school during an hour that works for them, that we can come over and educate from the perspective of just how is it best support our bodies and our frame, and give them the right tools to make those decisions moving forward as they're older, and they're going to have to make them for themselves. So starting them off right will just give them, you know, all the benefits in the world, and then set them up to succeed as they're doing that later in life and for decades to come in their further education. So we want to just thank you for being with us tonight and for hanging out and waiting for us, and joining us in office and in Zoom land for live workshop. You guys, the benefits you get from this that you can carry forward to yourselves and the people you know is what makes our community great, and what makes it healthier and happier and less subluxated. So join us with your takeaway, and please fill out a workshop takeaway form if you're in the office and there was something you got from that, especially if we can come and help support you in any way in your community outside of here. The box of where to put those on the education station in the office, as well as suggestions for other workshops. I want to throw out there, if there's something you would like to hear us talk about or go further into than maybe we have, please put it in the suggestion box. We're getting ready to set our 2024 calendar, and we take all your suggestions. We want to educate you on what matters to you and what feels like it would support you in the best way for you and your family. So thank you for joining us this Tuesday night. We will see you next week, and be safe, and we'll see you in the office. Bye-bye for now.
Employee training.
Right.